Hearty welcome to Soft Talk. It has been quite some time since I came before you with this program. The events have been unfolding fast and it has not been easy to keep pace with them. Nonetheless, I accept this challenge and here I am with yet another episode of Soft Talk. Due to my other professional obligations, I was a bit late in presenting this program, but I have come to present yet another episode. So I welcome you all to the show. Let me start with the most important development, uh, the most important recent development, the political development, that is the Constitution Amendment Bill. As you most probably know, the government of KP Sharma Oli presented the Constitution Amendment Bill to the sovereign parliament. The idea was to formally incorporate the territories of Lipulekh, Limpiadhura and Kalapani region into the political map of Nepal. The good news is that political parties of all hues and colors, including the main opposition, stood by the bill. They endorsed, they passed the bill unanimously. That was a smashing win for Nepal. That was one of the most positive, one of the most positive political developments of Nepal seen in like the last few decades. So the government of KP Sharma Oli deserves huge credit for this move. Equally thankful we should be to the main opposition and other political parties that stood for this bill, that stood for Nepal and the Nepali people. Their act will go a long way when it comes to reasserting our sovereignty over that territory. It should be noted that Nepal has always been saying, it has always been maintaining that the territory belongs to Nepal. India has been saying that it is a disputed territory, but the fact that it is, even if it is to be considered a disputed territory, that gives it no reason to continue its presence there, build road and other vital infrastructure without even informing Nepal. So that is it. It's a smashing victory for Nepal, initial victory for Nepal, but we have to go a long way when it comes to bringing that territory within the administrative control of Nepal. We'll have to do adequate homework, talk with the neighbors, and if these exercises don't yield much, then we may have to go to the international level for the resolution of this issue. But for now, let's focus on diplomatic initiative. For now, let's focus on talks to resolve this outstanding issue. On this, in this case, the government of Nepal and the political parties deserve all thanks from the Nepali people. Other than that, let me focus on the government performance vis-a-vis the coronavirus control efforts. As you all know, most probably, that the government efforts to control this pandemic has not been like that. These efforts have not been that effective. There are reports that the purchase of medical supplies and other necessities for the control of this pandemic is not transparent. There's a huge corruption ongoing in these purchases, in these imports, and the government has also said that it has spent about around 10 billion rupees already in just its efforts to just manage the camps, the quarantine camps, provide for the affected people, the needy, the most vulnerable ones. It has said that it has spent about 10 billion rupees. But what appears, the situation on the ground suggests that the funds, the benefits are not trickling down, and this corruption or perception of corruption, these irregularities are fueling a protest in Nepal, including the capital of the country, Kathmandu. Youths have been hitting the streets. Youths have started hitting the streets, demanding transparency, demanding an end to corruption, demanding good governance. That's a welcome development. Uh, Indeed, worldwide it has been seen that this pandemic and the lockdown has given governments across countries to just suspend civil liberties, to in many cases to deny the right to life. That kind of situation is emerging. People are dying of hunger, people are dying of joblessness. So it's a the right to dissent, the right to protest is a constitutional right, and they have every right to hit the streets. But our past, if our past is any guide, such protests, maybe they are like homegrown protests, but somehow these protests, we lose control of these protests at some stage, and foreign forces start prevailing. They start guiding these protests, and what happens is revolutions take place. And when at the end of such revolutions, the foreign powers start prevailing, they start calling the shots. That has been happening in Nepal, whether it's after the political revolution of 1990s, another revolution of 2005, or way back the political changes of the 1950s. Indeed, those changes, those political revolutions were for the greater good of the Nepali people. But these changes, these revolutions ended up serving foreign interests more than the interests of the Nepali peoples and Nepal. What we ended up like the national sovereignty got weaker through various controversial deals. We lost our lifelines. After the 1950s, we have lost our control over we have just lost water sovereignty over the Kosi, the Gandak river systems, the mighty river systems that were our lifeline. We have very weak control over these rivers in our territories. And after the political change of 1990s, we lost our control over the Mahakali River. Our water sovereignty over the Mahakali River got weaker and weaker. And then there is this deal that has further weakened our sovereignty over the Karnali River. The Upper Karnali Agreement has done so. It has done a huge disservice to this country. The same with the Arun Agreement with our southern neighbor. All of these agreements were signed with our southern neighbor in the name of water sharing and power sharing kind of arrangements. That all these deals have done a huge disservice to this country and the people. So, what I am saying basically is it's fine to just hit the streets, it's fine to protest against the government, it's fine to seek good governance, it's fine, it's great to seek transparency, it's great to seek an end to caste based discrimination. But what I am saying is these protests should be under our control. We should talk, we should sort out this matter on our own by talking to the government, by talking to the political parties, uh, by just reaching out to all the actors. The government should meet the demands of the political of the youths. These protests have been labeled as spontaneous, homegrown kind of protests. That's great. Uh, but the onus is on the government and the political parties to reach out to these people and address their just demands. All they are demanding is an end to corruption, an end to this hanky panky, all sorts of, and relief for the most vulnerable people. They are demanding just jobs. These are just demands, and the government should listen to them. It may not be possible for the government to just open up all the end the lockdown completely, given the health risks that such a move poses. But then the government has to make sure that people do not lose their lives because of this lockdown, because of food insecurity, because of joblessness, because of hunger. It has to provide for the most vulnerable lot. Then only, like, it will be a people's government in a true sense. Having said this, it's time for us to just stand with the government, the stand with the political system. Even by protesting, we are with this system. We have to just ensure that we remain with this system instead of just resorting to violence, resorting to militancy, that kind of thing. We should keep our house in order to rule out foreign intervention, to make sure that foreign intervention in our political affairs, in our internal affairs, does not deepen any further. In fact, this is the time to take control, take charge of our home, because thousands of people, lakhs of people, far they are returning from abroad. They will be needing jobs. They will be needing some economic stimulus so that they can rebuild their lives and they can see their future in this very country, in their own country, by providing for them, by encouraging them to take employment in this country itself, by encouraging them to create job opportunities in the farming sector and other sectors. We will be like contributing to revival of this our rural economy. Will start producing the crops, the vegetables, the greens that we need, and that will lead us to self-reliance. That way, the rural economy will get a revival, and that will contribute to revival of the national economy. But that is easier said than done. As I said, the government has to do serious homework. It has to provide stimulus, economic packages to these people. Many of these people have just learned new skills abroad, and they can now just utilize those skills for the greater good of this country, its economy, and the peoples, their kith and kin, their families, their societies. They can make a huge contribution, but the onus is on the government to create a positive environment for the same. If it takes adequate steps, it will lead to uh, this population dividend that young population brings to every country. So the focus of the government has to be on that front, and the political parties and other stakeholders should stand together, should encourage this government to work in that direction instead of engaging in any activity that causes failure of this government, because they will not be winning by toppling this government, by rendering this government unpopular, because it will lead to this making the new system unpopular, whereas the onus is on them to make this system work for the people and the country. So let's stand together, let's bridge our differences, let's work together to just in this difficult situation to bail this country out of troubles. Let's just join hands for the same. On this note, I wrap up this edition of Soft Talk. Thank you for listening. Please provide your insightful comments, feedback, and suggestions. Do not forget to just like this channel, subscribe to this channel, and continue your support to this channel so that I can continue to present this program, so that I can continue to add value to this program to make it more interesting, more engaging, and more enlightening. And please do not forget to just ensure that your comments are decent, and please contribute to just increasing the viewership of this program by recommending it to your acquaintances, friends, family members. Thank you so much.